You are now about to witness the strength of street knowledge. Straight out of Compton.
What a hard day's work. You know what I like to do? I like to learn about some history. Chapter 7 concerns the conflicts between the Persians and the Greeks. Within this chapter begins with the creation of the Persian Empire and its fall due to internal conflicts and the Persian Wars. The Persians were originally from Central Asia, but immigrated to the Middle East in 1000 BCE. The Persians were skilled equestrians and archers. These people were pastoralists, so they needed their horse riding skills, and they learned to incorporate this into their warfare. They later used these skills to defeat the already weak Babylonian and Assyrian empires. Cyrus used the Persians' equestrian and archery skills to create the Achaemenid Empire, which stretched from the Indus River to Egypt. Cyrus was not liked by many of the Persians, being that he was from the mountain regions of Iran, but he did not give up, and he used his skills to prove his peers otherwise. He later died defending his empire from nomadic raiders. After Cyrus's fall, Darius took the throne and later created the largest and most successful version of the Achaemenid Empire. Darius was not as focused on expansion as he was on sustaining the largest empire created at that time. The reason Darius was so successful was because he focused much of his time creating faster ways to administer taxes and authorities to minimize the chances of rebellion. He created a city to centralize his administration called Persepolis, which was a concentration of royal officials, tax money, and other important figures. The Persian Wars started because the Greeks were unhappy with their Persian rulers. They became fed up and killed all the Persian authorities. Rebellion was short-lived, as Cyrus would later take the Ionic territory back. Cyrus sent his army to conquer the Greek city-states. After Alexander died, his chief generals carved his empire into 3 large realms, which they divided amongst themselves. Agriculture was the economic foundation for the Persian Empire. Zoroastrianism allowed people to believe in whatever faith they wanted to. Xerxes was a cruel but weak king who was defeated by the Greeks in the Persian Wars. This led to the fall of the Persian Empire in 465 BC. Chapter 10 talks about the creation of Greek society and their conflict with other empires. Minoans were originally from Crete, but volcanic activity forced them to move to the Mediterranean basin. Mycenaeans came from the Balkans and later mixed with Minoan culture. They attracted people from all over because of their creation of stone buildings. These gatherings were called polis, and they soon grew and became the first city-states of Greece. There were 2 significant city-states at this time, Athens and Sparta. They both had large, unhappy lower classes. The Spartans countered with a strong military force. Athens created a new form of government, which today we know as democracy. The Athenians had some of the greatest minds of that time.
Plato's greatest idea was that the world we live in is a pale reflection of a true reality. He comes to this conclusion because he questions if we should disobey our parents if they are involved in a legal action, but doing that would be against philosophical principle stating that we should never disobey our parents. Pericles was Athens' most beloved official they ever had and ushered in an era with a wide variety of workers and abundant infrastructure. He inspired many to create work they would be proud of and brought a new level of sophistication not seen in many other cultures. Socrates was pivotal in Athens' philosophical sphere due to the fact that he spent most of his time posing questions and convincing people like Plato that honor and being a good person was better than personal gain.
Later, a new superpower arose. They were known as the Macedonians and were led by Alexander of Macedon. Alexander's empire was split into 3 sections. The Seleucid Empire by far was the largest and spread Greek culture the most. The Antagnid was most connected to Athens. And the Ptolemaic was the wealthiest empire. Chapter 12 illustrates the relationships between 2 large empires on opposite sides of Asia connected by the Silk Road. There were 2 large powers at this time on opposite sides of Eurasia. They wanted trade, but they could not trade by normal means, so they had to create the Silk Roads. The creation of the Silk Roads was a tough challenge to take on considering the obstacles in their path.
These Silk Roads went through harsh deserts and oasis towns. From there, merchants would go to ports for trade and then continue on their journey.
Routes were used as well, but they were handicapped by seasonal monsoon winds and could only travel in certain directions at certain times in the year.
The way long-distance trade works is that one local merchant travels to another region not too far from his own, then an object traded would keep being traded until it has traveled a long distance.
Spices at this time were some of the most important commodities. They went from China to Bactria to the Mediterranean basin. Merchants would usually stay extended from their homes for long periods of time, allowing them to learn of new cultures and religions.
Buddhism was widely accepted in oasis towns of Central Asia, and there soon were monasteries built with monks in them. Later, the steppelands and nomadic people would take a liking to this religion as well.
Christian missionaries took advantage of the Romans' magnificent network of roads and sea lanes, which enabled them to carry their religion throughout the Roman Empire and the Mediterranean basin. The explosive spread of Manichaeism dramatically illustrated how well missionaries were able to spread religions among the Silk Roads. Mani promoted an ascetic lifestyle that insisted upon high ethical standards. Epidemics also spread rapidly due to the Silk Roads. The most destructive of these diseases were smallpox, measles, and the bubonic plague. As diseases ravaged through the 2 empires, Chinese and Roman populations declined quickly. Confucianism was created in China to counter the chaos in their nation because of rebellion. Soon the Roman Empire split into eastern and western halves. Later, the western half fell to raiders. Chapter 16 shows us India's seasonal trade routes, as well as their religious conflict between Islam and Hindus.
The Harsha Empire collapsed because of local rulers taking over small parts of his territory. The empire could do nothing to stop them without starting war, which they could not afford. He kept this charade up until he was assassinated. The collapse left the door open in northern India for settlement. Many Muslims moved there, and many decided to go south. As they moved south, some more extreme Muslims destroyed mosques and monasteries, but were stopped at Delhi.
The people learned to coexist with each other through trade.
Southern India had two main empires. The first was the Chola, who had its own political issues but did not face problems like war, invasion, or turmoil. They were a strong empire for 400 years. They lost control after rebellion weakened the empire, leaving them with just a kingdom. The second empire was Vijayanagar. It was founded by Muslim officials who were sent to claim this land for the Northern Empire, but instead found this to be an opportunity to create a Hindu empire. They later were defeated by a Muslim kingdom alliance, but they had a good run.
The southern Indian population grew almost exponentially, so they had to create a more efficient forms of irrigation.
Due to southern India's extensive population growth, they became very inventive on how they collected water. With the construction of large reservoirs and canals, they were able to collect water in the rainy season and use that supply in the dry season to feed the crops.
India soon became a hotspot for textile creation and distributed all over Asia. And this concludes our historical journey.